Hello, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Relationship. And I'm so excited to be back. I hope you missed me and the show. I know I've been away for a few weeks, a few things been happening, but it's all good. We are back on track with Let's Talk Relationship. But today we have a amazing guest. As always, I have amazing guests on the show. We have Matt Dixon from St. Louis, I think Missouri, or in that area. And today we're going to be talking about updating your relationship program. Wow. That's right. The subconscious programming that we have in our minds, in our heads that is running constantly. And a lot of the times we are self-sabotaging our relationships. And, the only reason this really happens is because we're in the way. So today with Matt, we're going to be talking about some of those issues, some of those ways of exiting and how to stop this from happening. But just quickly, Matt is a yoga instructor, teacher. He's a personal trainer and he's a hypnotist as well. So as a fellow colleague, I am going to invite him in and talk some more about reprogramming our relationships. All right, so here we go. Hello, Matt.
Hi, Stefania.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show today. It's been great. We've had some, back and forth connections and making this happen. And just before we got on, we had a few technical problems, but hey, we got through, right? So thank you once again for coming on the show. And today we're going to be talking about what else? Relationships and how to update the programs that we're running in our minds on a daily basis on all aspects. But first of all, just share a little bit about yourself. I know that I've introduced you as you do a few things a bit like myself, but yeah, I'll let our audience know.
Yeah. Well, I'm a personal trainer by trade and a yoga teacher and a hypnotherapist. I have a number of coaching clients. I'm also a certified life coach, life and success, which comes with my NLP practitioner training. And yeah, I got into all of that work because I like to teach, and I like to help people. Kind of, I only see people, usually when they're it's always one thing they tell me. It always kind of comes down to confidence, on some level. So I love helping people raise their confidence, communicate well, be heard, and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got lots in common, really, because I kind of do similar work as well. I'm not a yoga instructor, but I am a personal trainer as well. But it's really interesting how you say, it all boils down to the confidence and our own relationship with ourselves, first of all. And, as you know, we're going to be talking about, how to, I guess, reprogram or update that program that we have running. And, in our previous conversations, we've spoken about that. And that's why I've got you on the show to really share that with our audience today. And if our audience is out there listening, I know you're going to be probably chiming in soon. Please feel free to ask questions and, no questions, big or small. But tell us a little bit about this as far as confidence. I know, you're dealing with people in the gym and in yoga, but the confidence always really boils down within ourselves, right? And how we, as humans, we tend to self-sabotage that, don't we? Like we can really either talk ourselves into something or out of something, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. there's always, it, it's it's everybody has somebody who would trade places with them. I always say that to my clients. So there's always, the confidence is such an internal thing. Um, most of my clients have almost almost always been mommies, um, women, very various different stages in their life, and there's never any consistency with it seems like a lot of women want to change the way they look because they think that'll raise their confidence, and there's no correlation between what kind of shape they're already in to what they tell me, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So I began to realize early in my career that it's all perception and how you perceive yourself and how you look at things. And my dad was a car dealer, and he used to say the best deal is what you and your customer can agree on and be happy with. Has
Mm.
nothing to do with what the car was sold for, so to speak. And he was right, because there was times like when someone would not negotiate very much money off of a car, or not at all, and they would just be so thrilled with the experience and of everything. And then there were those that were such hard negotiators that they practically get the car at cost, and if they weren't feeling good about it, then they felt like they got ripped off. And it's the same thing with confidence. There was no. Many times people think that it's in how they look.
Mm.
It's not. And once I learned that made me want to find a better way to communicate it to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more because, you know, being a personal trainer, and back then when I was working with clients just in the gym, it was all about the look, wasn't it? It was all about the physical look and how they wanted to appear to, the opposite sex,
Yeah.
particularly with the men. I think men have like got that, or also women. I mustn't say just men, but we can have these preconceived ideas that, if we haven't got that hourglass shape as a woman, or if we don't have that six pack with, the 13-inch or 14, 15-inch biceps, we're not going to be attractive to the opposite sex, right? And it's not in that at all, because what emanates and what really exudes is the confidence that you have within. And all that, as you know, as a hypnotist, that
Yeah.
all comes from our subconscious programming. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
so I just quickly want to acknowledge Zanetta, who's just said hello, Bella, and hello. She says hello to Matt. Zanetta is
Oh, I
all
thought
the
I
way
was Bella.
from. No, you're Bello. That's in Italian. Bello in
Oh,
Italian. What does she say? She says, it's
hello.
not the package wrapping, but the content. Yes, absolutely. And I think, excuse me, I think that's something that, I don't know if you agree with me, it's something that comes with age. And, with speaking with a lot of people, um, and working through the different age groups, it it's more physical, obviously, when you're younger, and then as you get a little bit wiser and have more experience up your sleeve, it definitely is more in the content, rather than just the wrapping, as Zanetta said.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And as as we age, when things change, there's it's we have to let go of the old story, the story of I'm in my 30s, or I'm in my 20s, or whatever, and let go of that, and then be in your 40s, or be in your 50s, or, or whatever that is. And then that's a hard thing to do sometimes. Like,
Yeah. So why do you think that's so? Because it's really interesting. that you're right. When you're 20, when you turn 20, it's like, oh my God, I'm 20. And then when you turn 30, it's like, oh my God, it's like another decade. And then you're thinking, you're in your 50s or your 60s, and you're thinking, what was I thinking when I was 30? Being traumatized by the fact that I was turning 30. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so what do you think that is? Like, is that just subconscious programming? Is it, because I know a lot of this stems from, obviously our earlier years, as you know, and
With what?
it stems from our earlier years.
Oh,
It
yeah,
stems
yeah.
from our upbringing. It stems from the experiences we've had. Um, all that, I think, it has a lot to do with how it plays out in our minds.
Um, I think so. I picked this up when I went through yoga teacher training and learning uh, the ethical practice, which is the yamas and the niyamas.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the I think it's a niyama. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter, but it does, but not for right now.
Yeah.
But it's santosha, and it means it's contentment.
Uh-huh.
And the way that, without going into like a deep dive is with all of that, but contentment is basically being present and kind of being here now. So being okay with what is what. So that's so difficult to do. But if a person, like as a fitness trainer, when we want our clients to exercise on their own and do things other than when they come to see us, as hypnotists or coaches, we kind of want them to do the same thing. Like, part of that is there's certain exercises you can do with your imagination to stay more present. So we're always wanting. There's so many metaphors for the grass is greener and all of that, and it's fashionable, I think, sometimes to talk about the good old days and all of this. But if you think about, like, and this is what I picked up from my parents, and I still do it, but it's never been super bad with me, because I used to listen to my mom, just say all the time. She'd show me pictures of herself, like at 35, and then she'd say, "Would you believe I didn't like my legs back then? Would you believe that?" And, oh, I wish I was 35. You know what I mean? And or I would hear her say that all the time, and then I noticed there was when she got to be 65, she wanted to be 55, and when she was 55, it was 45, and then that made sense to me. And then I began to think, like, man, it was when I turned 40, I thought, man, there's a 50-year-old that would murder somebody to change places with me right now. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna bemoan being 40. I'm gonna embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's a constant work.
Yeah, I absolutely, because I guess a lot of it also stems about the fear of the moving on, because I think too, with social media and so much hype on, aging and looking beautiful and looking youthful, and this whole concept that's being drummed into us constantly, right?
Mhm.
But at the same token, it's it's sabotaging, it's reprogramming us um, for fear, of
Yeah,
something that hasn't really happened, fear
yeah.
of not being able to be in a relationship, fear of
Mhm.
not being able to keep this relationship going, or keep her interested in me, or keep him interested in me. Is he
Yeah.
looking at other women, or is she looking at other men? I think there's this constant programming of fear that we've been put in, and we allow it too, because we're listening to it all. It's all over. It's all over the place. I mean, let's face it. Anywhere you look, there's billboards of beautiful, bodies, either men
Yeah.
or women, great smiles, perfect teeth, the whole 9 yards. And really, the average person doesn't really look like that, right? There's
Nobody does.
a small percentage of, and let's not forget that a lot of these images have been photoshopped as
Yeah.
or whatever
Yeah.
they call it. So we are allowing ourselves to be programmed for, this is what life's got to be. This is what our relationship. This is what our bodies have got to look like, and it's really not doing us justice. It's not doing us a service at all, is it?
No, no. And that's part of the contentment part, and so like with the interesting thing about contentment is, as it is like in yoga, it's not about um, it's not about settling, it's about noticing.
Mm.
So it's literally stopping and smelling the roses, and so and let's make it easy, like if you're staring at the ocean and you're on vacation, you know be there and stare at the ocean, stare off into the horizon, and just get lost in it and trance out a little bit. But when you think about like you know in 4 more days I'm back, I'm back home, I'm back to work, I'm back, and then that's just kind of robbing from that moment,
Yes. And how
which
many
is
of us do that? Like, we're getting closer to going home, 4 days before we go home, and it's like, oh my God, I'm going to be back in that office. Oh my God.
yeah.
And it is, we're not living. So what you're saying, really, we're not living the moment, are we? We're not being
No,
present in the
no,
moment.
no. And when somebody compliments you, um and you know that they mean it, and personally, even if they don't mean it, I don't care, I'm going to receive it like they mean it, because we can receive anything any way we want. It's our subconscious mind. We can just, you know if someone's trying to flatter me just to get something, then they'll probably get it, because flattery works on me, even if I know even if I know they don't mean it. But when you do know that they mean it, just sit with that for a moment, and then bring it into your new program, and then update the old one.
Mm.
At some point, you got to update your phone. Why not update the way you're thinking,
Yeah, good
about
point.
yourself?
Good
Yeah.
point. Absolutely. We're updating our phones all the time. We're updating our computer, like our programs running on our computer, and it'll literally flash.
Yeah.
Need to update. You need to update. Need to update. Yeah, just quickly, Zanetta says here, she says, it's also society or Hollywood where the infidelity is portrayed as the younger woman slash man, and the stigma of being old or getting old becomes a forefront of everyone's mind. Yeah, like you're absolutely right, I think, Zanetta, where there's no acceptance of aging, or of celebrating that, hey, you got to 55, you've gotten to 60, you've gotten to whatever age. Yeah, definitely. And hello to how do you pronounce that? Segnat. Yes, hello everybody. Thank you for joining in. So, fear, how does this really just stop us? Obviously we've been programming ourselves for years because of past experiences. What would you say is, like, what do we do? Like, because when we don't know we're even doing it as well, like, how would you, like, suggest to people to even be aware of that? Because, yeah, I think that's a really good question.
Like, can you give me like a specific example of
Okay,
fear?
so
Like,
so say for example, you know have fear approaching women. Or, vice versa, where, or you, as a woman, you may want to approach a guy, or you want to be
Mhm.
able to speak with confidence and not feel like you're fumbling. Because what really happens, I've noticed, and a lot with my clients, is when you're really attracted to someone, that's when all the fumbling and the nerves and the anxiety sets in. Because when you're really not attracted to someone, well, it's like, oh yeah, and you brush that off, right?
Yeah.
But when there's actually an attraction or there's an interest of some sort, we tend to make a mess of the whole situation, right? Um, so we know we fall into that pattern. So probably awareness is the first sign, I would say, and then how do we kind of like tap into that program that we've had, and then we need to update it.
Well, so when I was, I'm gonna, this, I'm about to sound totally, nuts. When I was in my 20s, I used to sell vacuum cleaners door to door.
Mhm.
So I was I was a door to door vacuum cleaner salesman, and I was pretty good at it. I was really good at, you know. So if you, for those who don't know what that is, what I mean. So we would get in a van, and we would head somewhere, out of town, usually about 50, 60 miles out of town, small town somewhere, and we would unload in a street, and we'd walk and we'd knock doors and try to convince, whomever was home to let us in to shampoo their carpet, and then we would try to sell them the vacuum cleaner. And the nobody knew we were coming. It was total cold calling.
Mm.
And I was really good at at getting in the house, and in fact, I would knock people in. So it was called knocking in.
Uh-huh.
And so at one point, my job was knocking people in. So which meant I would take them to the door, I would knock on the door, and I would do all the talking and get them to let them come in and shampoo their carpet. So my brother, worked with me, my older brother, for a short time, and we would come in the morning and for the sales meeting, and then while we were waiting for them to load up the van and everything, we would walk across the parking lot to this Burger King to eat. And there was a young woman that worked at Burger King who I just had a huge crush on. She was so pretty, and she knew us, from coming in there every day. And but the thing is, like, when I was selling Kirby's, I was fearless. Like, and what I know now from studying with the hypnosis and things, and what Mike Mandel teaches. I'm doing his course as well. He talks about ego states. So the Kirby salesman ego state I was in is completely different than the one I was in the rest of the time. So when I was selling Kirby's, I was fearless and, sharp and fast and quick witted and all that stuff. But otherwise, I was just like, you know, just and
Wow.
so we were sitting there one time, and I was just, staring at her and just like, oh, she's so pretty. My brother said, why don't you go talk to her? And then I was like, I can't, but, you know. And he just said, Matt, go knock yourself in. And so I stood up, and I just became the Kirby guy,
Kirby, the Kirby
Yeah.
salesman.
I walked up, and it was effortless. It was totally effortless. And she gave me her phone number and all that good stuff. But the thing is like, we all do something. We all do something that we're confident in, and you can, and everything is everything, it's just so. My brother said, go knock yourself in. And that clicked it for me. It was a cold call.
Mm,
It
exactly.
was, it was trying to, convince somebody to do something they didn't plan on doing, which in that case was to, I guess, give me a phone number, and then so it just all clicked. And so everybody does something that can apply to something they think they're not good at.
Mm.
So if they're my wife was a LuLaRoe person, distributor, and I would watch her lives, and she was just so good at them, and I didn't even notice how good she was until it got on my radar, and I would watch other people do LuLaRoe lives, and they were fine, but they weren't as good as my wife's, because the people were like saying things like, and they just weren't super comfortable. I thought maybe it was on camera, but my wife was just like a pro, you know. She's a middle school principal. So I said, "My God, you're so good at this. Why are you so good at this?" And she said, "This is what I do. I do this every day. I give presentations. I teach. I present. That's what this is." You know?
Presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all doing something like that. Even if it's gosh, even if you're an IT person and you're not around people, you're there's something within the IT that you can you relate to it. If it's whether it's like updating a program so it works faster, or you know um, I don't know, like if you're a well, here's an easy one. If you're a server,
Yes.
that's super easy. You're talking to people. That's you just do that. So
Exactly.
just take inventory with your skill set, and it's probably something that you don't realize. Just as I didn't realize, I
Yes.
wasn't. I'm not good with girls. That's why I sat there like a dummy until my brother's like, "Go knock yourself in." I was like, "Oh, it's the same thing."
Mm.
And
Because a lot of the time too, unbeknown, and this is what happens, I think you can be like, I guess, frozen because you don't know how to, deal with it. And that's what happened with you in that case. And it's a matter of just changing your state, right? Just saying, well,
yeah,
just jump into that state of, being a salesman without selling my Kirby, vacuum cleaner, or being that IT person that can confidently just step into that state of, and it's a matter of just being aware. You're absolutely right. Because what happens is, and this is from a woman's take, you know, there might be a man that he's just sort of sitting there and she's, women are quite intuitive and quite great observers. They're thinking, well, he's not making a move. And then she starts thinking, well, maybe he doesn't really like me, but yet he's like got a really big crush on her, but won't make his move because he's got this programming going on in his head, which then she then creates another program, and really, two people can actually be drifting further apart because they're in their own heads. They're not, really being present and just, I guess, getting in that state. And okay, you might get rejected, you might get a no, but that's not going to kill you, right? And that we do act like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. He said no, or she said no, she wouldn't, or whatever. And yeah, we can definitely create, go-
yeah,
that self talk ourselves out of it, really create self-sabotaging thoughts simply because we're running on that old program, right? We're
hmm
running on that old program. So just before we go on, I have a little from Brian. Brian Bulk, how are you? Thanks for chiming in. He writes, my biggest surprise was sitting at the hairdresser's chair. My little boy came up and my little boy, hang on, let me put my glasses on. I can't see this. My little boy came up and she asked how I looked. He looked bashful. And I said, it's okay. I'll never be beautiful as you again. The hairdresser objected. An older man has a different, hang on a minute, there's more to this that it doesn't read on here. An older man has a different,
kind of beauty in him.
right, yeah.
That's what, yeah.
I didn't see that. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Because we're talking about older men, I guess, and younger. Absolutely, going back to that. Hello, who else do we have here? Hadina also says hello from Indonesia. And good morning to everybody. Yeah, and replying for Hadina, good morning to her as well. Yes, so absolutely. I think that the programming needs to, first of all, you need to be aware of it. Secondly, you need to find something that's comfortable with you and that's natural, isn't it? Because we all have that in us. When we're not looking into, when we're not being watched, or when we're not feeling like the camera's on us or eyes are on us, we're just going to be natural, right? But when we know that, there's going to be a certain response, we get all worked up. Definitely. So what would you say, like, apart from like stepping into your that state, stepping into that that confidence that you already know, whether it be, selling cars or selling, in your case, selling vacuum cleaners, how to actually stop that self-sabotaging? What tips would you suggest?
So I would say this. So listen to the the dialogue, whatever the dialogue is, and you're familiar with the meta model, right? So that in NLP, that's where you basically you challenge something by asking for evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so like
just explain that a little bit more for maybe the audience that don't know that, what the meta model is and where it's derived from, so they have a bit of.
So if I think it's from the work of Virginia Satir, but anyway, but basically it's like if someone were to say nobody loves me, then you would challenge it by saying nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody loves you. My mother loves you. Your mother loves you. So, and then you just, and the idea of the meta model is that belief has a grip, and every question loosens the grip a little bit. So it's like, my mother loves me. So it's a little bit looser, well, then, then there's, then they go on and on and on. And when they break that, then they can move forward. It's like getting your car out of the snowdrift. So a fun way. So if you listen to the dialogue of the harmful belief, what do you hear from guys? Like what's a common one thing they could say that can be challenged really easy?
Women don't find me attractive, or like they think that and this is a very common thing.
I've been single a long time, so
yeah, I mean, and this applies also to couples. I think sometimes when couples have been together for a while, not in all cases, but sometimes communication can be less. They drift apart a little bit because they're not really working the relationship. If you as if you work the relationship's going to work for you. I believe that's it's an investment. I always say to people, a relationship is like a business. If you have a business, you invest in that business, you invest time, you invest energy, money, whatever it takes to keep that business alive and growing, right? So the same for a relationship. So
women,
when because this can apply to couples that have been together for a while, and they start thinking, oh, she's looking at other men, like he may have put on a bit of weight, or he's not looking as trim, and she's now starting to go to the gym. And I'm sure you get this where women are having their personal training, and their husbands are off working hours, slaving at the desk, and they may not
Yeah.
have the time, right? So,
Yeah.
but then subconsciously they think, oh, she's looking really good, like
Yeah.
she's looking
Yeah.
damn good.
Yeah.
Men are starting to look at her, and he may be having these thoughts of, he's getting out of shape, or he's not looking good enough. He's not enough anymore. Or
So
as opposed to the single guy, which is still along the same lines, it just he hasn't. It's before getting with her that he's already creating this: I'm not good enough, or I don't look good enough, or I'm not the body, or am I the guy she's looking for? Like, what type of man is she after? Yeah.
well, if it's something like uh, I don't look good enough, or I'm not. That's an easy one. Say, okay, let's say, so if the belief is I don't look good enough,
Mm-hmm.
then the meta model you can kind of get, if you're doing it to yourself, you can kind of get lost in the weeds without using your imagination. So what you do is imagine, the longest you put that belief on trial and then treat it like a hostile witness.
For example.
Well, so we've all seen, if anyone who's a lawyer has maybe done this, or maybe it doesn't happen. I've only seen it on TV, but like we've always seen on TV, where like, the the the, the witness will be on the stand, and then the lawyer will be cross-examining them, and then something doesn't add up with what they're expecting, and then they say permission to treat this witness like a hostile witness, and then the lawyer just turns into a jerk, and just starts grilling them, and not accepting what they're saying, and then trapping them and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so you put like I don't look good enough to attract her, or I'm just this is an easy one. I'm not attractive. Okay, put that belief on stand and treat it like a hostile witness. And then in your imagination, so you make that belief look like either somebody that that you think is saying that, or like whatever your subconscious mind is saying. Maybe it's a cartoony little monster sitting up there saying that, like I'm not attractive, and then so you say, so it's your testimony you're not attractive. Yes, that's right. And did someone compliment you the other day? Well, yes, but and then what exactly did they say? Well, they said, "Did you want me to read it to you, sir? Because it says you look very good today." Then collect things, and if you're and then you imagine that belief just shrinking, and then just like in the movies, the witness who's being just torn apart is just like, shrinking down, and their argument is just being obliterated by a skilled attorney whose job is it to make them look bad. And so that can be quite fun and quite
Yeah.
amusing,
Yeah.
and then pretty soon, so you're running two characters in your mind. You're running the belief, and
Mm.
then the attorney. And then so what would the attorney say? What would, and then you're collecting evidence to the contrary of this belief. So that's
Yeah.
all happening in your mind. And since you're doing that, and then you start to believe it, or you start to accept it, or it moves from, I gotta get my dog. There we go. Sorry. you you gotta, it, it moves from a belief to, it's okay, Danny.
Oh, Danny wants to get on camera. Say hi, Danny.
This is
Oh, how
Loki.
cute.
Yeah.
What?
And
What's
then
your dog? Is it? Oh, it's me.
Danny,
Danny. Oh, Danny's on the other side.
this is this one. She was growling at Loki.
Oh,
So,
hi.
anyway, but as you go through that process, I call it like the hostile witness protocol. And you treat that belief like a hostile witness. Just put it on trial,
Mm.
and just be a jerk. Be a jerk to that belief. And every time it opens its mouth interrupt it and and challenge it and try to embarrass that belief. So and when you do that, you're thinking of reasons that the belief isn't true.
Yeah.
And then lean into it. Lean into, like, when you start to think of that, like, oh, I got a great compliment the other day from a, lean into it, like, and by leaning into it, with your mind, you're like, oh yeah, huh. And then so your body language changes from, yeah, I'm not attractive, to like, oh yeah. And as Lori says, her big thing, the three B's, Lori Hammond, change your belief, your breath, and your body language, and
Yeah.
everything changes. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think that's great. I think
Have
that
fun
is a
with it.
great way of having fun with it and really just like being that, attorney with yourself. So really, because we're doing this all the time. We've got
Yeah.
these voices, we have these characters or these voices going on in our head, and we're so good at turning it all into a negative scenario
Mhm.
that if we're so good at doing it turning it into a negative, scenario and looking forward to the negative outcome, which we do, if we can just stop, breathe, yeah, the three B's, breathe, body
Yeah.
language, and what's the other one? And
Belief.
belief,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Uh-huh.
just question it, like you said, question it. And another good one I would
You're
say is that,
right. We're already doing it. We're
yeah,
doing the opposite. Why? Yeah.
exactly. Just switch it and just turn into and ask yourself, well, what if she does like me? And I don't know that yet. She hasn't really shown me, or, she hasn't been totally standoffish, but she's like, you know, like a pendulum. She's not swaying here or there. She's just very there, but not
Yeah.
showing any signs. Because that in itself can mean, well, there is an interest. Possibly there is, but she's probably observing, or she's trying to make up her mind because she's got her own thoughts going on in her head as well. Let's
Yeah.
not forget that, or vice versa. So yeah, I think that's a great way, Matt. I love that. I love the way you have broken that down because
I
we
love
talk
the way you
about
added to it.
yeah, because I often say, well, what if? What if she does like you? And I know it's happened to me. Okay. I
Hmm.
will, share experiences where I felt like men have not liked me, like I've met somebody and they've just been very not standoffish, because I think I can pick up the vibe if they're not, interested in me at all. But I can pick up that they're just there. And they're not moving forward and they're not moving backwards and they're not moving to the side. So they're just there. So they're probably waiting for me to make the move. And this is the game that sometimes we tend to play, I think. Again, even in relationships where we're just, well, if she wants me to say something, she'll say something. Or if he wants to know, he'll ask me. And we just sit there like a pendulum that doesn't sway any which way. We don't make our moves. And in the process, we're not getting the information we really want, and we're creating, these, scenarios in our head. And as I've done some videos on, the three Ds: delete, distort, and the generalize. How we do that in our minds.
Yeah.
So we can easily do that, and I speak to men, gentlemen, don't just think because she hasn't called you back immediately, she's not interested, or she's got someone else. And if you haven't asked the questions, you're not going to get the answers. If you're not going to step forward, if you're not going to put yourself out there, you're not going to know. Like
Funny,
knocking it out, is that what did you call it with
not
the
knocking in.
knocking in, knocking out,
Can
knocking
I ask
in?
you? Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay. This might embarrass you a little bit. So men are probably, with some women, they would be, or not women, but anybody, they're someone they want to approach, they would be intimidated by, because they think that they're out of their league.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine that, like, you would fit the bill of somebody who a lot of people think is out of their league. So what would you say to them? To how would
Oh,
you want to be?
wow. That's
Yeah.
a great question, because that's something I cover with my, clients a lot. Because again, they say, she wouldn't be interested in me. Like, first of all, they don't even know their type of man, right? Because they haven't even asked. And because she may look a certain way, doesn't mean she may like a certain type of man. Do you know what I'm saying? Unless
Mhm.
she's verbally and, describe that and express that, you're not going to know. So sometimes, yeah, I say to men, don't just judge a book by its color. She may look beautiful. She may look like she's got it all together and, super intelligent, super alpha woman that needs a certain type of man, which I don't even know what that certain type of man these men are imagining in their minds. Do you know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Um, and a lot of it is based on the physical. Let's face it. I mean, we're very, you know, third density, I say, where we're just, not all of us, but obviously where we're attracted to the physical first before we're attracted to maybe the energy of a person. Yeah, so I always say, ask questions or don't be intimidated by the way she looks. And maybe even in your own mind's eye, imagine her dressed down, not in her high heels and a jacket and, corporate look or whatever it is that may be making you feel a certain way about her. Um, Treat her like you would any other woman, respectfully, and don't also put her on a pedestal. I know I've got a video out there on YouTube if anyone wants to watch it, that, you know, don't put a woman on a pedestal. And I know I've had some contradicting conversations with that, with particularly women, because, some women want to be put on a pedestal. But when I say put on a pedestal, don't put her so high up there that, if she lets you down, like she's going to let you down. You should be treating her with respect, honesty, loyalty, and
Like an
don't
equal.
make, yeah, and don't make her out to be this princess that she's out of reach, because no one's out of reach. If you believe that that's what she is, well, that's what's going to, transpire for you. I always say that to men. So, yeah, just be you. And I think a lot of the times, because that's all just physical. That's just the physical facade that, we may be putting on for work or for our careers or whatever. So, yeah.
What's the worst thing that could happen if it doesn't go well for
What's the word?
you? Like, so
For who? For the man or for I'm not, I don't understand the
let's
question.
say like if a guy were approaching you,
Mhm,
and let's say you weren't interested in him,
mhm.
what's what's the worst that would happen to him if he's polite and everything?
Um, what's the worst thing? Well, you know, this is thinking on a positive. You can look at it as an experience of, well, I had a go. Like, I don't know. You're just putting yourself out there because she may be interested in you. She may just like the way that you approached her. She may just like the way that you handled yourself, and not trying to be someone that you're not. Because I think
Yeah,
sometimes that's what happens. We try and imagine the type of guy that she is attracted to. So then we then try and put ourselves in a different type of character, personality, and we
yeah,
we stuff it up because we're not being ourselves. And
yeah.
women can see through all that. So I just say to men, just be you. Don't worry about if you're not dressed to the T, or, it's what comes out of your mouth and the energy that you emanate with her that's going to have her engage with you, have her attracted to you, if she's on that level. Now, if she's just a very high physical woman and she's looking for a physical encounter, well, that's a whole different story. And that's where you're at. You're going to have a great time together. But if you're after, someone who's serious and, you're trying to work her out, you just be that type of person. Get that
Mm.
energy. Try and be connected to her, because that's what women like. They love that emotional connection. Yeah.
I, I agree. And I personally don't think that women care about looks very much.
No.
I think
Well, I think they care to a certain extent, right? And hygiene is probably, a lot higher than just the looks, because you can be good looking, but your hygiene can be bad. And that's the biggest turn off, I think. Well, I speak on my experience as a woman.
like a good hygiene and clothes fit, trim your ears, and as long as you're nice and funny, and you probably got a good chance, right?
Pretty much, yeah. And be yourself, be authentic. Don't be someone that you're not, you know.
Yeah,
Um, and that again goes back to, you know, reprogramming the mind, feeling comfortable in your own skin. And this is where I think hypnosis, and you can probably agree with me, this is where this really comes in and helps people be comfortable in their own skin, be their own person, and love every part of themselves. The parts that we think are just so, gross or whatever, because, we're really great critiques with ourselves, maybe some real turn on or attraction to the opposite sex.
yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, this has been a great conversation, Matt. I've really enjoyed this.
Thank you. I have too.
Yeah. And it's kind of veered off in different ways. So, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show and just sharing your experiences, your knowledge, and, your profession. So
Thank you so
you're
much for having
you're in,
me.
you're in St. Louis, right? You're in St.
Yeah.
Louis,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you're more like doing yoga studio classes as well as training. So do you want to share with the audience, anyone from that area that may want to connect with you and, have some sessions?
Yes. So I do all my training at Dudas Fitness, which is in uh, St. Charles, Missouri, Dudas. And I do all my yoga teaching at Jane's House of Wellbeing, which is also in St. Charles. So anyone who is local will know what I'm talking about. And as far as hypnotherapy goes, I do that online, and I can work with anybody anywhere.
Yeah, that's the best part, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're connected through the internet. Great. Okay, so I'll get you to, after the show, just drop your details on the feed. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you once again, and
Thanks for having me.
yeah, I just want to acknowledge you and say thanks, and I just want to acknowledge and say thank you to all. Um, the people that have chimed in, and those that are watching it on the replay. Don't forget #replay or #live while you're watching it. If you have any questions or whatsoever, please feel free to ask any topics you would like us to talk about. I'm happy to bring up. And of course, I just want to mention to everyone, I do have my book that's out,
Ooh.
Master the Language of Attraction. You can get yourself a copy on Amazon. Yes, to help you men. And I know some people say, oh, it's mainly for, singles. I think I got some content in there also that you can, it can fit in with men that are actually in relationships or been in relationships for a while, to keep that flame going, which is so important. Remember, relationships are like a business. We need to work it, invest in it to keep it alive and going.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you. Thanks once again, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stefania. Thank you. It's so much fun.
And sending everyone lots of love and passion. Bye for now. See you next week.
Goodbye.